and I am so glad to be working with my third, fourth, and fifth graders on this next project. Some of you guys might have started it during school, but it's stuck there and I can't get them, so we're going to go ahead and do one at home with you, and that's our landscape line designs. So this is for third, fourth, and fifth grade, like I said, and we're going to be using the elements of art to completely fill a paper full of designs when we do a landscape. And these are line designs. So you're going to be pretty familiar with some of them, but we're going to go ahead and do our project here. You'll see the list of standards in the description, but here's our objective. It says, I can use the elements of art to create a line design landscape. So we're going to use those elements of art. Things like space and color and shape and line and pattern. A lot of those vocabulary words that you guys are really familiar with when we're creating this. So the first things you're going to have to decide is, are you going to want a vertical picture? That means it's going up and down, or do you want one horizontal? And I'm just using a small sheet of paper when I'm creating mine today. So it's up to you the size paper that you want, but I'm going to keep it small because you guys have a lot of work to do with this. So it's a lot of details. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch over to my point of view camera. I'll show you right here. It's got my phone over here, this cool arm set up, and I'm just sitting at the kitchen table while the kids are playing with Mr. Hopkins in his room. So hopefully nobody interrupts us with any craziness, but we'll go with the flow, and that's what the stop button's for. So are you guys ready to get started? Okay, here we go. All right, students, so let's go ahead and refresh our brains on this objective. We're going to use the elements of art to create a line design landscape. And like I said, some of you might have seen this before in the art rooms. Some classes even got to start it, but some classes didn't at all. So I'm going to go ahead and have grades 3 through 5 do another one because a lot of you guys did not get to do this. I think only 2 classes. So take a look. This is what our end goal will look like. Ooh, ah. But like I said, I'm just using a small paper right here, so it's not going to take you a ton of time. In school, we use Sharpies for this. So if you have a Sharpie, that would be awesome. That's what I'm going to use. But if you don't worry about it. You could use a black crayon. You could use a pencil. It's totally up to you. Whatever you have to write with would be fine. You got some choices. This one I did was the land, and you could also do one that maybe is the water. So it's up to you, and I'll put pictures up in the video so you guys can pause and really think about which one that you want to do. You also have to decide if you're going to go vertical or horizontal. So both of you. You can see the papers are turned sideways, going this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do one with you, but I'm not going to go horizontal. I'm going to go ahead and do a vertical one. Oh yeah. So I've got my smaller sheet of paper right here, and I'm choosing vertical. And since I did one in full color that was the land already, with some hills, some mountains, and the sun and the sky, I'm going to go ahead and do a water version. So I have my Sharpies here. My plan is to start in black and white with Sharpies, or you could have a pencil, that would be fine. And then I used watercolors, this Crayola set that I had. They're washable. That's what I used for this. Now, if you wanted to do yours in full color, but you don't have Sharpies, maybe you have just a set of markers around. You could totally do this with regular markers. And that's why you could do full color and still do our line designs, but you just wouldn't have paint. So if you don't have a Sharpie, but you have markers, this is a great thing to do this lesson with. I've seen a lot of success with just markers for this. But I'm gonna start with what I'm used to, which is starting with black and white and then adding color later. So I'm gonna do mine as the water. You are more than welcome to do the land, so you just have to make that choice ahead of time. If you're doing the land, think about how many hills you want to have in your foreground, how many mountains you want to have in the middle ground, and what kind of sun you want in the sky. Do you want it to be up in the sky in the middle with the sunbeams reaching all the way to the edge, or do you want it to be setting? So here's one that's in the water right now that I did with wavy lines that reminded me of water. So different types of waves, and this time the sun is setting. So I had done that one already. But I'll go ahead and draw one along with you really quick. But don't worry, kiddos, I will put both of these pictures up. You'll be able to see them. So for my watery lines, I'm gonna do definitely some wavy, wiggly lines. Just like that. And then maybe some scalloped lines. And then maybe some big waves. And I know that might be tricky if you're starting with a marker. So starting with a pencil would be fine with me. Now I'm gonna do my sun. This time I had done it setting in the water, which is totally fine. I'm gonna do that again, and I'll show you how I divide up the page. So we get to make a little math connection. So there's my half a sun, because it's already sinking down below the horizon line here. And remember, the horizon line is wherever your sky is meeting the land. In this case, it's where our sky is meeting the water. So when I divide up my sun, I'm gonna split it in half and just kind of estimate. So I have half the sky over here, half of it over there. So it's in two pieces, halves. But I want to have more sunbeams, and I want them to be equal distance apart. And I'm not going to use a ruler to do the measurements. I'm just going to estimate. So I'm going to find where I think the middle is, right on this part of the sun. And I'm going to say probably right there. And I'm going to draw a line that goes all the way out to the edge of the paper. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to turn the half into quarters. So I have 1, 2. I need to make 3 and 4 pieces. So I'll find, I think the middle is right about there, and I'll just draw my best straight line there. Let's count how many spaces I have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, this is your lesson. You guys should be pretty familiar with fractions. I could leave it like that, or I could be extra fancy and split it into another group. What could I divide that into? I had halves, then I had quarters. If I keep this pattern, what do you think would be next? Think time. Did you say eighths? If you did, you would be correct in my guess. That's what I'm going with next. So I'm going to split that group into halves. And that's going to give me a ton of spaces to put in really cool designs. Now, I wouldn't go any further than that. That's a lot right now. Let's just count and make sure I did it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did. So now everybody should be right here with a blank one, okay? Now, we want to go from here to here. And this might take some time. Don't worry. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do a lot of these patterns, okay? So let's talk about some of the ones that you see here. Some of you guys might already be familiar. Like, I call this one baby rainbows. Okay? This one's pretty easy. We'll get started. This one has scales. Okay. This one I call cinnamon buns. Pretty easy. Maybe you recognize some of this. This one reminds me of tic-tac-toe. These are just polka dots. This one here starts with a circle that gets bigger and bigger. And when the circle doesn't fit, it's just curved lines that go out from the starting point. Okay? This is just a bunch of circles of different sizes, all touching. So it kind of reminds me of bubbles. And as I got to the sky part, I started making up different patterns. I was feeling pretty happy, so I was like, well, you know what? I think I need some hearts. And maybe I'll do a zigzag line. Maybe I'll do a wavy line. Maybe I'll do a combination of lightning bolts and polka dots. And it's up to you guys. You do not have to do the same patterns as me, but this is just ideas. This one's fun to use with a marker because you do a lot of dots really close together and then you work your way out. So I'm not going to show you every single one, but I'll leave my teacher example up on the screen for a long time so that you guys are able to see and decide what you want to use, and you can always go to any part of the video that you need. A lot of the designs that I use come from Zentangles, and if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a couple different playlists. You'll find some really cool links to Zentangle doodle lessons in there. So if this is the kind of thing that interests you, check it out, okay? In our Google Classroom, my YouTube page is linked to every thread, so you should be able to see that there, okay? And if you need anything, if you need any more support, just have your parents send me an email, and I will make sure that you get that information. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll show you baby rainbows. We'll do scales and we'll do cinnamon buns together. And then I'm gonna let you guys go for it. So it's up to you next, okay? So let's go ahead and choose one of our markers to start with. It's up to you to choose the marker that you have. You could have a fine point at home. If you have a black pen, that works just as well. So I'm gonna start, let's see. I think I'll start right here with my baby rainbows. And I'll start with this one here. Gotta get my marker warmed up a little bit. So I think 4 or 5 in a corner would be a great starting point. And I'm gonna go to another corner, really close to it. And I start in the middle now. It's really important when you're doing this that you notice which way the rainbows are growing. So it's gonna grow this direction if I keep that pattern up. 2, 3, 4. Cool. Let's go ahead and do some scales, okay? So if you're working in the bottom, you can do the scales in the bottom, or you could do them up in the top part of your picture, up to you. I want to take a minute to remind you that make sure your sunbeams go all the way to the edge. If they stop halfway, if they don't go all the way to the edge, then you're not going to have a complete space to fill in, and it might look a little bit funny. So I'm going to go ahead and do some scales right here. So make sure when you draw the scales that you draw complete shapes. You're going to connect the tops of each one of those bumps with a new bump. There we have scales done. And also I'll go ahead and show you my cinnamon bun swirl. It's a really fun one, but it does take some time. I think I'll have it right in the sun because that's a pretty fun spot to have it. So we'll go ahead and zoom in real close. And I'll try to keep my hand out of the way the best I can. So this is just a swirly line, kind of like a circle that curves in on itself. And you can change the shape of your cinnamon buns. You could have a really big one, really small one, and it doesn't matter which way you spiral, as long as they're all touching. Imagine them all squished together. Some of them might be more of an oval. Ooh, I want to definitely put one right here. And it's all in the same space. So I'm only doing the center of my sun. Put one here and one here. And so there, that area is filled in. We'll go ahead and pull this baby up. As you can see, this is starting to get filled in. Pretty soon you're gonna have it completely filled in, and then we'll paint it. Here's my suggestion on painting. I decided to keep my cool colors and my warm colors kind of separated. I wanted to have my warm colors in my sky and more of my cool colors down here in my land, but I did use yellow here in the bottom because I was limited in my selection of colors. So like I said, I have those Crayola paints here. I didn't use any brown. I did not use any black because those are not in the color wheel, and I'm only using the warm colors and the cool colors. So yellow, orange, and red, those are the warm colors. You should know those. Green, blue, and purple are the cool colors. I know at school we have a lot more options. Sometimes we have put the pink paint, sometimes we have the indigo or the dark blue, and you have a lot more choices as far as those, but I only have 3 and 3. So I had to just kind of work with what I had. But it's up to you. You don't have to follow any of those rules. If you want to have cool colors everywhere, then it's going to have a really cool, calming effect with your painting. If you wanted to use more of your warm colors, it'll feel all bright and spicy. That's up to you. If you are somebody that's not using the markers that I have, like you don't have Sharpies, if you're over using the Crayola, then you're just filling in those patterns with those. Sorry for that loud bang. Ollie must be trying to bust out of his room. But don't worry, it'll be okay. It kind of scared me, so hopefully I didn't knock the camera. All right, boys and girls, well, I want you to do your best. I can't wait to see these when you're all finished. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.